Hello. Yeah. We as a nation are on a course to becoming the third largest economy with unprecedented pace, and our progress will be defined by the parliamentarians that we choose to represent us. Let's welcome Praniti Shinde, MP from Maharashtra. Can we have a round of applause for this? And Tejasvi Surya was also supposed to be here, but he could not. Unfortunately, he could not make it to the event. But I think we're going to have a very wholesome conversation here. Yeah. So these parliamentarians have the pressure to prove the worth and contribute to the pace and progress of our nation with their work, resisting the clamors and the distractions. Now, we hope this session moves beyond the daily headlines and enlighten us with the idea of what you have in store for us. So, Pranati, let me just start with the most talked about conversation right now, vote chori. So, both BJP and Congress are accusing each other of vote chori. What is your take on this? And can we really say India's electoral policy is free and fair?
I would just like to thank Manorama for making me a part of this very prestigious conclave. And thank you for having me here. I wish my co-panelist was here, but unfortunately, he isn't here, so which gives us the opportunity to be more elaborate. Well, we just had a very noisy parliament session which ended yesterday, and today Gaurav and myself made it for the conclave. Conclaves and debates and discussions being very important to democracy and to the structure as well, which is why no matter what, we did have to be in Bihar for the vote chori, vote adhikar, SIR yatra that Rahul Gandhi ji has undertaken. But because we believe in democracy, we believe in discussions, we believe in debates, we thought, and the Congress party thought, it's very essential to be a part of this conclave.
We really appreciate that.
Yes, and I feel debates, discussions are the backbone of any democracy. Coming back to vote chori, I think a lot has been said, but the reason why the parliament was being adjourned is because all we wanted was a discussion on vote chori and SIR, which the treasury benches refused to have, and which is unfortunately very sad, because both the sides would have been able to give us their side of the story. But I think after the press conference that Mr. Gandhi did, that was a game changer, and everything was exposed because people were asking for proofs. The election commission was asking for proofs. The opposition, the ruling party was asking for proofs. And I don't know how many of you saw that press conference, but it did have a detailed presentation of how vote chori happened. I come from Maharashtra, and I won the Lok Sabha election. 4 months after that election, we had the Vidhan Sabha election, and there was a total turnaround. In 4 months, every constituency had an increase of about 50,000 voters, which doesn't happen, which is unrealistic, which is not possible. Normally, you would see such a jump not even in 5 years. You would see it in 10 years, but this happened in four months. And what, as you can see, in Bihar with the SIR, there are dead people who've made it to the voter lists. There are not dead people who have not made it to the voter lists. There are addresses like XYZ, there are addresses like ABCDEF. There are people who belong to different constituencies whose names reflect in other constituencies, and this was never the case. We have all political parties have a structure in place whereby we examine voter lists, right? But the Election Commission has given us canned proof copies.
Right.
No Excel sheets, no text formats, no readable formats, canned proof copies, so we cannot check. It cannot be put in Excel. I can't do a tally of how many dead, how many alive, how many address changes, nothing. This was a rigorous exercise that was done by the Congress party vis-a-vis one constituency in Karnataka. It took us 6 months to do that, and what we saw was shocking, and that's what Rahul ji exposed in front of you. And just one last thing, in a democracy, the soul of a motherland is its democracy. And the soul of a democracy is that you and me are able to exercise our franchise. If that is snatched away, and no matter how poor you are, no matter how rich you are, no matter whether you're literate, illiterate, you can still exercise your franchise. But if that by itself, that right is snatched away from us, how does a democracy flourish?
So
Or
regarding
how does a democracy even survive?
the electoral policy, you're thinking about the free and fair part of the electoral policy. Are you doubting it?
What electoral policy? What ECI? What? These are all mouthpieces now, as you,
Right.
as you clearly saw. The defense which they gave was not substantial enough. And we are not even challenging the ECI. We're talking about how ECI is acting like a mouthpiece of the ruling party, of the BJP. And the debate that they put forward, the way they defended themselves, it was almost like they were attacking the leader of opposition. And they asked him to submit an affidavit and all, which is, I mean, he's sworn by the Constitution,
Yeah.
which they don't believe in, apparently. So they're not accepting his charges as real ones.
We'll come to that, but regarding the 41 lakh new voters that was enrolled in Maharashtra, and but my question is that in a gap of 5 months that was, so all political parties get a draft voters list, right? But why was this not?
So you need to understand the onus of making sure that that list, when it reaches us, is absolutely perfect, is not on any political party. If the Election Commission of India is trying to shrug that and put it under the carpet and telling us that you should check it, the onus is not on any political party. The onus is on the ECI to make sure that these lists are free, they're transparent, and they're clear. It's the ECI's onus. You can't say, oh, we put it in front of you and you didn't. Also, they're very smart. I will check a voter list vis-a-vis my constituency, right? What they have done is they have put voters from another constituency into my constituency, or some other third constituency which is far from my constituency into my constituency. So it's very shady, and there's so many ambiguities in that, and a limited time period is given. You see, only about a month is given to check, to check that. So remember, no matter what, the onus is always on the ECI to make sure that those lists are absolutely clear and fair. It's not any political party's onus. And clearly, they were hiding something from us, and which is why they didn't furnish lists on time. They didn't give us readable, editable formats. They didn't give us Excel sheets. They gave us scan-proof voter lists.
Right. Okay, moving on. Regarding the document that Rahul Gandhi had presented from Mahadevpura, ECI has never denied it, that it's fake. What is your take on this?
Sorry, which?
Election Commission has never denied that the document presented by Rahul Gandhi from Mahadevpura.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they have not denied that it's fake.
Correct.
Yeah. So what is the overall take that you now grab from this?
I feel they've fallen flat on their faces, and which is why they don't even want to have a discussion about it, and which is why probably they're not even being a part of panel discussions and conclaves. It's apparent that they've gone on the back foot. And then, very typically BJP, when the focus is on something, they want to digress, or they want to divert attention, which was classically why an even more draconian bill was brought up yesterday, the 30th Constitutional Amendment Act.
Right.
So these are just diversion tactics. They don't want to face, they're left red-faced, they have no answers, and they've completely gone on the back foot. And now with the Yatra in Bihar, about SIR and the momentum that it's gathering.
You will be taking on the Yatra.
I mean, all of us, all the parliamentarians will be participating in the Yatra.
Right. Okay, moving on from this, I would like to know your opinion on the freebies culture. So, do you think elections are transactional, and does that also feel like vote chori? I'm talking about the freebies culture here.
You know, I'm of the opinion that the only thing that counts when you are contesting an election is the work that you have done, irrespective of your gender, irrespective of your caste, creed, religion, color, race. I am of that opinion, and all the elections that I have contested have solely been on the work that I've done, and not just me, it applies to most of us. And I am of the opinion, and my principles, my ethics, my values tell me that in a democracy, we are just instruments. And a member of parliament or a member of the legislative assembly is not a big thing. We are just servers of the people. We're instruments to facilitate that promises are delivered. We are just a small part whereby to safeguard the constitution and to make democracy more meaningful. So when I tell you all this, the only thing that needs to count, that has to count, is the work that you've done, the development that you've done in your constituency, the way you've been able to understand the pulse of your constituency, the pulse of the people of this country, and the way that you are able to communicate. I think accessibility is key also. So for me, if you ask me personally, nothing compares to honest work and honest development in constituencies, and that should be the only thing that should count.
Because I want to understand this thing here, because PM Modi wants us to be self-reliant, but again, with this freebies culture, how do you see this happening?
No, I mean, to give you an example, in Maharashtra, before the elections, they announced a Ladki Bahin scheme, which is my favorite sister in Marathi, if I had to translate it to English. Just a month before the election, this scheme was churned out, whereby women were given about 1,500, 2,000 rupees were deposited into the account. I am all for women, I am all for development of women. And then after they came to power, the scheme was discontinued, or it had become very selective. So, पहले ऊपर से देते थे, अभी पहले नीचे से देते थे, अभी स्कीम के माध्यम में से ऊपर से दे रहे. It is literally like that. Just a couple of months before election, you churn out these freebies. It is like almost a bribe that you're giving to the women, and then later you phase it out and you stop this scheme. Or similarly, we have the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra saying that we're going to waive off all the farmer loans just a month before the elections, and then has the audacity to say after the elections, after they came to power, that these are promises. ये सब वचन है, ये पूरे नहीं किए जाते हैं. And on top of that, you do vote chori. So now you tell me this is not a chief minister, this is a thief minister.
लेकिन freebies तो कांग्रेस भी करते हैं ना?
Freebies were promised in the manifesto, and then after we came to power in Karnataka, that's why you're getting, that was churned out, and obviously the central government did not help us with that, and those were guarantees. It was never pre-poll freebies, itne bade paimane pe, when it's a scheme that is already laid out in your policies, that's different. But suddenly you introduce a scheme, and then you phase it out later.
Right. Now,
if you ask me personally,
yeah,
I feel it's only work. There's no comparison to the development work that you should do in your constituency. And like I said, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, race, and color, and language. And we need to reinstill that faith in the people of this country and not use any underhand means like vote chori or EVM tampering to win elections. That in itself is the beginning of the collapse of a democracy.
Right. We're moving to education and students right now. So recently, Rahul Gandhi had pointed out about the PM internship scheme, the low takers in it. So from the 1.53 lakh offers that were rolled out for students, only 9,453 students had taken it up. So Rahul Gandhi had pointed this out in a tweet. Now, why do you think that happened? And did you, like, what do you think would have happened in this scenario? This is regarding the PM internship scheme.
Well, I think people have somewhere lost faith in the government. And which is why, you know, even if you apply for a scheme like that, or for example, you take the PM Kisan Yojana, which is the PM Fasal Yojana. Initially, they did roll out those 3 monthly installments, and then they were all phased out. Now, for a scheme like the PM internship scheme or whatever, have you gone through the criterias? The criteria, some of the criterias for these, if you want to start a business, these startups, is that you have to have a 10 lakh this in your sum in your account, and only then can you apply for this scheme. And then they ask you for bank guarantees and mortgages. It's impossible for you to have this. The reason you are giving them a scheme, the reason you are making a loan available for them is because they are devoid of all these things, and it has to be easy. It has to be a single window clearance, but no. Even for the farmer, when he goes, server down hai. Most of the time in logo ka server 100%, 80% of the time is down hota hai. They cut everything. Now online, when you go to the rain, the amount of barish kitni hui hai, they have to record it online. Now, how many farmers, how many of us sitting in this room are able to record it online, that the poor farmer will be able to do that? Similarly for youth, you have to have a balance, bank balance of this much, only then can you avail of this scheme, or you have to have a guarantor, government, this, that. The criteria itne hai ki people have now lost faith. And that's why, as you know, as you can see, and as Rahulji pointed out, the amount of takers for this PM internship are so few.
Right.
So this is just all on paper. I'm giving you an example. Like for example, the Prime Minister Awas Yojana, okay, which is supposed to be, now if you read it, itne gaon mein itne awas hoye. It's all on paper. But when you go to that village, you will see that there's no land left in the village for them to build these houses. Line lagi hui hai collector office ke bahar ki humko land dila do to build these houses. But on paper, so you will get a letter saying aapko manzoori mil gayi hai, that you have got a PM Awas Yojana house, but in reality, there's no land left in that village to give you that house. And then they'll boast these figures in the budget and in the parliament, on the floors of the parliament, and say, देखो इतने घरों को मंजूरी मिली है, but ground पे कुछ नहीं है. And not just Maharashtra, every state. You take up Kerala, you take up Kochi, for example, and you see how many are on paper and ground पे कितने villages के पास ज़मीन ही नहीं है to build these houses. Again, because of the very, very strict, stringent criteria.
So it's people losing faith in...
Absolutely. And nobody is talking about that. And when we go to talk about it, there's always some digression and diversion from the main issue.
Now, talking about the artificial intelligence boom, like the boom of artificial AI is something that we use it everywhere now. Everyone has it at tip of our fingertips. Now, what I need to know is that the country needs jobs for graduates. And with the boom of AI, this is somewhat scary. A loss of jobs, and now the question about job creation becomes very significant at this point. So how do you think Congress as such will tackle this situation? And what would you do from for Maharashtra as well? Yeah. What do you have in store? What is in your mind?
You know, for job creation and AI has now become an integral part of all our lives, you know, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's anything for that matter. But I think there's always an alternative. These are two different things, I feel, job creation and AI. AI is not eating into people's jobs as such, because there are various levels of categories of jobs that one can apply. Like I said, ease of business.
But we've been seeing a lot of job losses also as
yeah, I mean, look at our country for that matter. They've not been, there's the unemployment in graph has gone so high, you know, and it's because they're not readily available. For them, they feel that pakoda banana ya bhelpuri banana is creation of jobs, but that's the last level that happens when that poor guy absolutely has no resort. So what jobs have you created in the country? How many jobs have you created? Berozgari itni बढ़ रही है. And privatization has played a big role in this, you know, because privatization does not even guarantee reservation. Like, for example, you take up an NTPC. Somebody in my constituency committed suicide because he lost a job, because private contractors lie, or private contractors ne permanent jobs nahi de rahe. Private contractors are not giving permanent government jobs, which is why that youth is just going helter and skelter. This is happening in railways, this is happening in power, this is happening in municipal corporations, this is happening everywhere, in Jilla Parishads. So where are the jobs? You know, and I think like Mahatma Gandhi said, and Michael Schumpeter said, that small is beautiful. Instead of taking development to people, instead of taking people to development, bring development to people. Let's focus on our villages. Let's make those self-reliant. Aaj wahan pe kuch nahi ho raha hai. It's all cities. It's all become city-centric. It's all become one-man-centric. All the favors are being done for one person. All the loan mafia is being done for one person. The middle class is suffering. The poor are suffering. There's just mayhem everywhere, and nobody, unfortunately, is talking about it. This is not flashing on any social media. And which is why we need to have discussions about this in Parliament. That right also we're denied.
Would you be able to tell Congress what Congress has in store? Like, are there any plans or whatever you have in mind for the youth?
We've done it. Like if you take Telangana, Karnataka as an example, you will see the kind of development, you'll see the kind of stuff that we're doing there. Let's start with the caste census, which we want. And Telangana did a fabulous job at the caste census. We had a presentation by Mr. Reddy, and they've gone to every house and done the caste census, and they're going to create all the jobs based on this caste census now, and he's already started the process. And Karnataka will soon follow in the same line. So we've already shown you what can be done, and look at the graph in Telangana, whether it's investment that's coming from outside. And then if you compare it to Maharashtra, we had this ambitious metro and monorail which crashed with itni si barish, and the first responders took 2 hours to reach there. I can't even imagine what will happen to the underground when it started. It'll be instant death. So they just want to, it's all shosha on the face of it. Grassroots, andar kuch nahi ho raha.
One last question that I really wanted to ask. It's about work-life balance. The thing is that, talking about jobs, how many hours do you think people should be working? Because I really wanted to ask about the work-life balance, the number of hours that people need to work, because this has been a constant discussion. And I mean, I would have really wanted to ask this also to Tejasvi regarding the number of hours. But yeah, sure. What do you think about it?
It's a very personal thing. I think some people draw tremendous energy from work. Right? Like if you ask someone like me, when I'm in my constituency, when I'm in I draw tremendous energy, so I don't realize I'm working. For some people, it is draining because the kind of jobs that they're into, and to sit in front of the screen especially, can be extremely, extremely draining. But ultimately, it's a personal choice. It's really not on the number of hours you work in, and it is the amount of work that you get done.
Yeah, because it's really affecting the youth, and with the number of health issues that's coming up.
Mental health is a big concern. I did put a bill up in the Parliament. Mental health is a big concern, should be addressed in every home, in every school, in every college, in every friend circle for that matter. And there's just so much pressure and competition nowadays that everybody needs help. There's nothing embarrassing about it, especially youngsters in colleges, in school, where they're at that tricky age. I think they just need to be dealt with sensitively, and everybody needs help, and help, no matter how young you are, no matter how old you are.
But with the IT firms,
it's become very harsh, everything. Like I was reading a post somewhere that nobody has stupid conversations anymore where you laugh and you're just, nobody's feeling free anymore. Everybody's getting judged every time. Everybody's on their phone every time. Like if you see 10 people sitting on a dining table, they're just into their phone every time. Nobody's listening to songs anymore. So I just feel everything's become very harsh, very materialistic. There's also a beautiful side to this world, which everybody saw during COVID, obviously before the vaccinations and before the second phase. But I think let's start looking within. And to each his own, really. Nobody can dictate to anybody.
This is also about the firms and, who mandatorily extend the work hours. If you have to talk about the IT workers in Bangalore especially.
I've never experienced the corporate working of it because I've always been in politics. But of course, I read about it and everything. But like I said, it's very stressful. Everybody needs help, and everybody cannot perform. Everybody has different qualities that they're good at. Everybody you cannot compare two people. Learn, I think every boss, every leader needs to understand what his team member is good at and let him explore that. Not exploit it, but explore that and use that. Instead of comparing two people and letting him do something that he's not able to do.
Got it. I think it was a very wholesome conversation with you. I hope you had fun. And I think this is the end of the session
Well,
right
that
now.
was easy.
And now I hand it over to my colleague, Aipan Das. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tisha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pranidhi. Thank you, Tisha. അതിഥിക്ക് കോൺക്ലേവ് വേദിയുടെ ഒരു ചെറിയ സ്നേഹസമ്മാനം നൽകാൻ ക്ഷണിക്കുന്നു ശ്രീ സജേഷ് നമ്പ്യാർ, ചീഫ് ഓപ്പറേറ്റിംഗ് ഓഫീസർ, ഇന്ത്യൻ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഓഫ് കൊമേഴ്സ്, ലക്ഷ്യ. Thank you all.